Okay. So I got a request to talk about being neurodivergent and working. And I have been sitting on that, and I've been thinking about what examples I would like to give, what accommodations do I want to talk about, how vulnerable I want to be about being neurodivergent, and also newly finding out that I'm neurodivergent and what has changed or hasn't changed since I have disclosed that information. So I'll just give a brief rundown of like some instances where things happened, and now that I know that I'm neurodivergent, I have autism and ADHD, I understand what was going on now, but I just didn't have the diagnosis or the language to talk about it then. Okay, so when it comes to working, I've always kept a job. I've never had an issue working or finding a job. That hasn't been a problem for me. And I really only experienced like discrimination when I was working for white people. And I did have very odd experiences when I worked for non-white people as well. But a lot of the things that I attribute to my neurodivergency, I don't even know if that's a word, happened when I was working for white people. In particular, one job that I had when I had finished my master's degree, I worked at an agency and I was a project manager, but I also did other things like social media management. I helped with graphics, things like that, just in the comms field. And we contracted out government, I don't know what they would be called, but like government entities and stuff like that. It was in Fairfax and it was ran by a white man. And I would come to work early, like 7 a.m., and I would leave at my normal time, but I would come to work before everyone else got there because it was just easier for me to work in silence. And I realized that now I need silence in order to focus because I get distracted easily because I have ADHD. I also do not really like the social aspect that comes with being inside of an office. So I had an office by myself and I would close my door. I would get in trouble for closing my door. I got talked to about that, saying that I was standoffish and that, I needed to be, I guess more personable in the workplace. But every time I was personable in the workplace, it was awkward or someone said something to me that was borderline racist or microaggression, right? So that's one of the ways that I kind of realized that something was different about me, is because I constantly would get in trouble for that. Another thing that I would get in trouble with at work is that I always finished my work fast. So I typically finish things before the due date because I hyper focus on them. My cat is messing with the phone stand. I hyper focus on things and I do it in one sitting. Like I try to get everything done in one sitting. I'm very like, once I hyper focus on something, like I hyper focus on that project, and sometimes it can be hard for me to switch to another project. So I kind of have to have like a game plan and I have to map things out, and I'm very organized when it comes to like what I'm going to work on for the day, down to even putting like what time I'm going to work on it, because that just helps me and it helps my brain. But at work, I would get in trouble because I would be finished my work, and after I finish my work, I ain't got nothing to do. So I would be reading or on the computer or doing whatever else, and then it would look like I had idle time, but I didn't have idle time. I just was done with my work and there was nothing else for me to do, so I did other things instead, and that was seen as a problem. Another thing that I think is very unique to Black women who are neurodivergent is that if we are not super friendly at work and chipper and smiling all the time, we automatically are seen as aggressive or dangerous or rude, or we got an attitude. And that's not really the case. Like, I have social anxiety a little bit, probably a lot, and I don't like talking to people if I don't have to. I hate small talk. I don't like people trying to poke and pry in my business unless I want them to know my business, because I'm a very open book. I have no problem telling people about myself, but if I'm not offering up that information to you, I don't want to have small talk so you can try to pull at that information. But now I'm working in a place where other people are also neurodivergent, and it is clear that we all have processes and things that we do to make work easier for us. So it has been really nice working at a place with other Black women who are also neurodivergent and who also understand. And They are very open to accommodations that I may need. They are very open to understanding like how I work, that I am trying to learn how to unmask when I feel safe, that I do sometimes struggle with focusing, and that I can be really rigid when it comes to organizing and keeping stuff on a schedule. So it's really hard for me at times to be flexible. So they've been very like kind and compassionate and have extended grace to me as I'm trying to work through those things in the workplace. And I'm really grateful for that, because I know a lot of people don't get to experience that in the workplace. The last thing that I can really think about being neurodivergent in the workplace is that it's scary to tell people that you're neurodivergent, but I have learned over the many years of having different illnesses and different things going on with me that once I let people know what's going on with me, I feel better. I suspend disbelief that they don't give a fuck. And I try to remind myself that I am telling them for myself, not for them. I'm telling them so that I feel comfortable and that I can move the way that I need to move. And I am one of those people that when I fill out an application for something and they ask if you're disabled, I say yes. And I know that can be scary, and I know that can also lead to opportunities being taken away from me, but I have learned in my life that if an opportunity is not for me, it doesn't matter if I check that I'm disabled or not, it's not for me. And that can be easier said than done, but I think that is really important, especially as Black women, Black femmes, Black people, to be okay with letting people know that you think differently. There's nothing wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing your job. That doesn't mean that you don't make a good leader, because I'm in a director role. I'm in a very high leadership role. The next step for me is executive leadership, which I'm working towards, and I have direct reports, and I do my work, and I do my work well, and I haven't had any complaints, and I'm also neurodivergent. So it is possible to be successful and to flourish and thrive at work while being neurodivergent, but you just really have to learn what works best for you and find out what environment works best for you. So working from home is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I teach my classes online because I have accommodations through the university to do so. And my department chair has been really, really helpful with making sure that I can continue to teach online. And I work from home. I do travel a lot for work, but traveling for work is not the same as going into an office every day. I also really like my coworkers, so that also helps out a lot with my social anxiety and just that getting to know people. Like, I want them to know me and I want to know them. But I knew that working from home was where I needed to be. So I made sure that I looked for jobs that I could work from home, because working in a office was just not working out for me and for how I worked. So this video was pretty long. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm going to ask you all to subscribe to my YouTube if you have not, because that's where my longer form videos will go. They'll also be on my TikTok as well, and of course on Instagram. If you're neurodivergent, what are some ways that you accommodate or ask for accommodations for yourself? And have you ever told anybody that you work with that you were neurodivergent, and how did that conversation go? Let me know in the comments.